That is after 5, so I'll go ahead and call this May 3rd, 2018 meeting of the Carson City Library Board of Trustees to order. And we can proceed with the roll call.
Chairperson Hayes.
Present.
Vice Chair Long.
Here.
Trustee Liverati.
Here.
Trustee Patton.
Here.
Trustee Solinger.
Here.
Quorum's present.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 2, public comment. If any members of the public wish to address the library board, now would be the time. Seeing none forthcoming, we'll move on to item 3, specifically 3A, approval of the donation agreement between the Hop and May Adams Foundation, the Adams Hub.
Okay, so what you have in your packet is you have different pieces of backup. First, you have NRS Chapter 379, which is on public libraries, which gives the authority to this board to, one, enter into lease agreements, as well as a variety of other items in governing the library. And then you have the you have the proposed organizational chart and the business development manager final version of the job description. And then you have the draft budget for the operations of the Adams Hub for the remainder of this fiscal year and fiscal year 19 or 2019, fiscal year 19. And then you have the staff report that was entered into the Board of Supervisors meeting earlier today, or you have a staff report. It's specifically for this item. It just gives you more background information about what was going on. These staff reports we do use for Board of Supervisor meetings. So, yeah, for this, yeah. Even though that's wrong. And then you have a copy of the presentation, which I will go through in a moment. And then you have the donation agreement, but we do have an updated donation agreement that was entered as late material that you do have access to. And with that, if you'd like me to go through the presentation, and then if you have any questions, we can go from there. Okay.
Yep, please proceed.
So technology is not on our side this afternoon, so Diane is going to be switching through slides for me. So on our, go ahead. Okay, there we go. On the by the number slide, this is specific to incubators nationwide, not specific to the hub itself. So these are just some statistics for you to kind of take a look at in what the incubation and co-working space can do and has done across the nation. So over 5 years, business survival, 87% of incubated businesses survive versus only 44% of small businesses. Incubated clients tenure around 18 months to 3 years. 94% are non-for-profits. 54% are located in mixed-use spaces. And since 2005, there's been a 74% increase in remote workers. That's specifically important to the co-working space that is located in the Adams Hub. So communities without borders equal spontaneous collaborations that spawn business. And I think that's kind of the specific thing that we see that is hard to articulate in incubators and in locations that have the ecosystem within itself to have smart people talk about ideas, create businesses based on those ideas, and then essentially launch those businesses into the communities. That was strange. Okay, so in 2017, this is information that was received from the Adams Hub in their 2017 year in review. And so their current services include business incubation, co-working, the New Entrepreneur Network, the Young African Leaders Institute, the Small Business Association and SBDC business counseling, Entrepreneurs Assembly, business coaching, lunchbox learning, and pre-accelerator workshops. Pre-accelerator workshops are workshops for businesses that might not yet be ready for incubation, but can go through some education and training to get them ready to be incubated businesses. So their statistics, they're near 100% occupancy in their private offices. They have 20 member companies. 8 of them have been new in 2017. They have 6 regular partners to help grow businesses. One of those is the Carson City Library. They have 34 mentors, and over 600 students have been reached by the new Entrepreneur Network program that they offer. So the different case studies, I just want to show you, Mapwater has been incubated in the hub a little bit over 2 years, almost 3 years, but they have had grants from Google, NASA, and Bechtel, and they've built out a climate engine, and they have applications for private and public sector, and it's through the DRI researcher, Justin Huntington, Dr. Justin Huntington, and so that's an example of success in that space. And then one of the newer clients is Triforce, and this is the development of the innovative new solution to stretching carpet. They have a utility patent on that, and they use the Carson City Library for research, and that is the Mario video that you guys saw last time. So I won't necessarily play that for you again, but that is an example of somebody who, even after using the resources at the library, took it a step further to then come to the hub to expand and grow their business. So in partnership, what we're looking at here is really where does this fit for the library and for the city. And if for the city, under their strategic goals, it definitely fits under economic development and quality of life. But for the library, it can fit under all 3 of those: inspire learning, facilitate connection, and create opportunity. But really, it's the library's mission to educate the citizens of the community on various topics, and this program will help educate the community in business development, and that's under our Create Opportunity strategic goal. So specifically, success will look like, and this is from our strategic plan, that the library is recognized as a central player in economic development, that business grows and unemployment lowers with library help, that ability to sharply focus on business education, in particular specific needs of industries best positioned in Carson City, competitive intelligence capacity and analysis, white glove reference help that results in more profitable and diverse businesses within the community, that the library is recognized and has better relationships with other business organizations, and that a high percentage of community students graduate career and college ready. So that is what success looks like for us under Create Opportunity, and I think that those specifically speak to the activities that we can accomplish in the hub itself. So an overview of operations, the space will be staffed by a city employee funded out of the grant funding from the Hop and May Adams Foundation, and that is the business development manager, and that position will report to myself and will be one of the managers. They will also be reporting to the library board, just as other managers will be during our library board meetings. We then have our interns, which are part-time city employees, specifically because if they are under 18 years of age, we cannot put them on our marathon temporary staffing, and we have to put them on our city staffing. And so they will then report to the business development manager as well. We'll then have an entrepreneur in residence and a new e-network manager. Both of those will be part-time contracted employees that will report to the business development manager. And then we currently have a business coach and business accelerator mentor that receive office space for work performed, so in kind. And we will definitely be following city policy with that, and if we do continue to offer them office space for in-kind services, we will do a contract with them for that service. So you'll see the programs here. These are pretty much the same programs I listed off earlier, but I did want to talk about a couple that were new that we're looking at bringing on board. And in this process, we will also be evaluating all of the programs and ensuring they're, number one, efficient, but also that they're not, that they're completing their objectives and that they're successful programs and that we have measurable metrics to ensure that that's happening. So one of them is Pitch Fest, and Pitch Fest will allow for businesses to pitch angel investors for funding. And then another is a hackathon, or multiple hackathons, and that will be focused on making Carson City a better community and a better place to live. And we'll be able to bring individuals together for creative solutions and actually come away with a product or a solution from that hackathon. So I participated in one in Reno a couple weeks ago. It was a 24-hour hackathon, and we came away with a working web app for a local nonprofit. And so that's the type of solutions that we would like to bring to Carson City. So then you'll see the organizational chart here. The two pink boxes are going to be your full-time and part-time city employees, and the green boxes are going to be your professional service contract, which are paid professional service contract employee. Those are the only different additions to that org chart there. Did I see a question, Jeremy?
No.
Okay. So the next item is proposed budget. It's the revenue. So in 2018, we expect to be able to collect about $6,000 in leases and an annual contribution of the $200,000, and that additional $5,000 is coming from the new e-entrepreneur network. And the school district is currently paying for some of those services, and so we expect to see that revenue coming in for the remainder of this year. And then incubator memberships. So some of the memberships that the incubators or that the co-working space has purchased, they purchased like a year-long pass, and so that revenue is already seen long ago. And so what we're looking at is about $60 to come in the next 2 months just from individuals who are drop-in coworkers rather than those who have purchased their pass for the year. And we expect to see that increase next year. So that's what the 2018 looks like. And then in the 2019 tentative, we've budgeted in the revenue about $50,000. That's what we were able to see from what Adams Hub was able to collect in 2017. We do expect that amount to be significantly higher, but until we change policy procedure and get new lease agreements in place, that's what we're able to predict. And then you'll see the $200,000 from the annual contribution. We do believe that the school district will still continue to participate and provide funding towards the new program, but that was not something that I was comfortable putting into the budget, not knowing if we would actually have that or not. And then $12,000 in our incubator memberships. And so there is a carry forward because of the annual contribution here in the month of May, as of June 30th. That there is a carry forward into next year so that it will continue to pay for what you're going to see in expenses. So don't mind my little note there. I did check those, but the one thing that I did leave off of this list for the budgeted items is waste management, and that is $1,000, and that will come out of operating supplies. So operating supplies will be reduced next fiscal year by $1,000 to accommodate for the trash service at the location. So then in year one, what we're looking at doing is really planning to develop a plan. We're really, the first couple months, we're planning to develop a plan. So what that is going to look like is we're going to be establishing the need for the community. This includes a review of business retention, entrepreneur development, and business incubator needs. We're going to be talking to the community. We will survey the community, but that is not the only way we will interact with them. And we will be working with businesses to see what their needs are in business retention and workforce development specifically. And then we'll develop strategic goals with measurable metrics for business retention, workforce development, and business incubator that meet our strategic goals. We will also, in year one, establish and execute policy and procedure to ensure that we're at least 25% cost recovery. Year two, we plan to be at 50% cost recovery, and year three at 75% cost recovery. So theoretically, if there was a year four, meaning a new contract, then it could potentially be fully cost recovery in that space. So you'll then see the structure. And you might see the structure. That's okay. That computer is very slow. Okay, so the structure is that the library board oversees policy. It has oversight of the operations of the staff and will receive monthly written reports, and you approve the donation, approve or not approve of the donation agreement with Hop and May Adams Foundation. The Board of Supervisors has oversight of the grant approval. They will also receive written reports monthly and quarterly presentations and reports. It is an NRS for us to report to the Board of Supervisors quarterly, so we will fulfill that obligation. And that is it. So if you want to...
I have a question. When you do your administrative reports to the Board of Trustees, will you include the Hop Adams budget in with the regular budget, or are you going to separate it out to show it because of the revolving funding that you might get?
So it will be separated out similar to that of our Makerspace grant. So like you see that as a separate individual line item thing, or the library gift fund is a good example. The library gift fund is...
But when you do the big globe thing with all the expenses and income, are you going to do two separate ones? You're going to lump it into there and include it into that?
Do you mean the pie chart
Yeah.
for the?
You're going to make
What do you
separate
want?
pie charts? You're going to do two? I just was
Do you want
wondering-
both?
I was just wondering what you were thinking.
I probably would put it in with the current one because, I mean, all of the funding is still, like all of our grant funding, all of the library gift fund funding is all under the library.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to review the agreement? Like, what do we want to do then? Do you want to just ask questions? Are there any questions specifically about the agreement? Are there any questions specifically about the agreement? Iris is going to speak.
So you guys got some late material, and there already was late material posted a few days ago. The latest late material only has an additional change into section 5.2. One of the supervisors brought up a concern to me about potentially the general fund being liable for expenditures if this doesn't sort of pay for itself, and I'm grossly paraphrasing, but what we did was we put some language in to say that in-kind matches can be used for grants instead of just having it be cash matches, so that just alleviates that concern. There was some talk at the supervisors meeting earlier today that somebody was saying that none of the general fund will be used for the Adams Hub operations, which I think what she meant is that nothing additional was going to be used. And I think that's pretty accurate, but it might be in a quasi sort of way because of the in-kind match requests and also because of staff time. But as far as like, I don't think they're going to be reaching into the general fund for additional money, if that makes sense. Did I say that right?
Yeah, so the intent is not to use the Hop and May Adams Foundation funding to receive grant match, and then we wouldn't be able to pay our operating expenses, and then that would essentially have to be paid out of somewhere, which would be the supervisor's authority over the general fund. And so that's what this is intended for. This first year, there is not going to be any unallocated funding in the budget, but for instance, there is $8,000 allocated for the city network to be brought into that building. And one, if that is less, or next year we won't have to do that, if there's, say, $8,000 of funding that's unallocated, I mean, it has to be allocated somewhere in the budget, but if it's unallocated, we could potentially use that as grant match with cash versus staff time in kind to grant match. So that's what that change is all about.
And just a couple more comments. So this lease, we worked together on putting the stuff that went into it. We also worked with Mr. Neighbors, and it doesn't look exactly like a typical Carson City lease because it is different in that it's a donation agreement, and there are specific requirements that the Hop and May Adams Foundation requested to go into this lease. And as part of receiving such a generous donation, we agreed to those terms. Or actually, we agreed to put the terms in, and you guys are agreeing to the terms if you approve the agreement. So,
Sina, was there any part of the terms that were initially submitted that's still standing here that you have a heartache about?
No. What I do want to just note here that it is a triple net, and so what that means, a triple net lease. So what that means is we pay taxes. There are taxes that have to be paid on that building because he has not filed for that exemption. But we are excited to help him file for that exemption. And building maintenance on that and insurance on that. So those are three items that we are responsible for in a triple net lease.
Okay, so go ahead, sorry.
Is that giving you heartache? I mean, I asked you if there was something specific that you didn't care for in the thing, but that seems like something that's normal, that you would have to carry insurance. I mean, the city has to cover.
It's not generally normal. It's normal in commercial leases. It doesn't give me heartburn or anything. I just wanted to emphasize that to you because it was a learning process for me on that item as well.
Okay.
So what does it mean if, so that includes like roofing, right? Something big, like some big expense?
So there are a few items that he is covering.
Okay.
Under maintenance. When I'm talking about maintenance, it's like indoor, the toilet is running and won't stop running. We are responsible for fixing that. We do have a clause in here to repair any immediate and deferred maintenance issues identified by the inspection noted in 8.11, so I'm reading 9.1, within 30 days for repairs under $5,000 and 60 days for repairs over $5,000. And we are working to get an inspection of the building so that we can have that pre-maintenance done on the building before, I mean, it's not technically before we occupy, but within the first 60 days of when we occupy.
so if you guys look at 9.2, that says what they're covering, and it's really good. The inspection is going to do a lot because really with the triple net lease, it's like anything that went wrong on the inside almost would be our responsibility. So that's why the inspection up front is good, so he will repair those, and he's agreed to do that, so I don't really see any issue with that there.
Sina, on the staffing side of things, do you have some estimate of how much of your time will be spent on this part of the, as opposed to your regular library duties?
I'm not going to tell you how much I work, but I work more than 40 hours a week. So I foresee the first few months getting, getting Valerie up to speed, but also just getting the library up to speed on those operations, that there's going to be more time invested on that front end. And then, I mean, I like to give my managers flexibility to make decisions and go forth and prosper. So, I foresee that being more heavy on that front end and less so in, 6 months from now. But I couldn't quite estimate what that looks like until we really get down to what the operations are. But the individual that we would like to be bringing on board here has expertise in developing plans and surveying the community and ensuring that that's a good plan going forward. So this individual worked for Health and Human Services and actually took Carson City Health and Human Services through their accreditation process. And so I foresee that not having to be my task, but that will be her task, as well as we're going to be going through a strategic planning process. So this is actually a very good thing for us to, or a timely thing for us to be getting and then being able to go through this process so we can really evaluate what we want the goals for that space to be on that, 30,000 foot view.
I'm just curious.
So say we go over the budget for this first year. Where does that money come from? Like, do we have to dip in general fund or?
Sina's salary.
We won't go over budget. So essentially, we are not a department that does that. So we will, not that there are departments that do, I don't know that, but we will be very mindful of what revenue is coming in. And if we're not meeting that revenue, we will be cutting expenses from areas that we need to cut expenses. If that means that the individuals that, especially before we've done the lease. So the goal of the leases is so that we can be cost recovery for those interior office spaces that they have. And I mean, when I say cost recovery, I mean like paying for the soda and the tea and those types of kind of perks that they have. And if we can't be cost recovery in that, we're going to have to cut those expenses. And so that's what we're going to really be looking at up front here at first, is ensuring that we can either hit cost recovery with that so then it's not an issue. And if we can't, then we're going to have to cut those expenses.
Wouldn't you be kind of treating this similar to any other grant that you get? You get a chunk of money and you have to be responsible for exactly where you spend it and all that sort of stuff?
Correct.
Well, except that they get to keep the money this time. And they get to reinvest it.
Yeah, but I mean, if we are going over budget, then there's nothing to reinvest.
We're not thinking that way though, are we?
No.
Absolutely not.
So I suppose we have to give you a motion, even though the press has already decided that it's a done deal?
I think what's in the press is actually incorrect.
Oh, really?
I mean, well, what came out this morning isn't entirely accurate. Now, I have not read the article myself, but I have been informed, and I trust my source.
He knows.
So,
Before we make a motion, I did find one egregious error in the agreement.
your name wrong?
They spelled my name wrong.
You know, I ran this through my checks and balances, and nobody alerted me to that. I'll fix it.
I am typing his name. There's an E between M and Y.
Okay, this obviously had a lot of background checks and all that, and let me just boil it down to what I'm thinking. What's the worst possible thing that could happen, and if it does, how do we fix it?
Sorry, Iris, just, anyway. Okay, so, I mean, I would say the worst case scenario is it's not working and it's not making, it's costing, it's taking that 200,000 down. And if it's not working, you know, the goal is to evaluate if we can make it work, and if we can't make it work, then we terminate the contract. This is an experiment,
So what is our out in the less than 3 years?
30 days.
30 days.
Either
we have.
party.
Okay.
And the amount's prorated that we, yeah.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah, and we pay back the prorated grant.
That's in item 15, is all the right of cancellation.
I was at the Board of Supervisors meeting today, so I got to see like the presentation beforehand. I think that they did a really good job asking the questions that they did and, you know, for their concerns. But I think that, I think this is a good opportunity. I am excited about it. I already told Sina that just because I've been involved with the Adams Hub. And so I feel like it's a really good connection for us at the library to be involved with the things going on there. And I'd like to see like what, I know at the supervisors meeting, they brought up a lot about the workforce piece of it. And I'd like to, you know, see like what that looks like. So I think it's a great plan, and I think it's a hard opportunity to say no to.
I agree with Amanda. I was also at that meeting this afternoon. Two things. One, the Valerie that's going to be the business manager, I thought sounded very competent and excited about doing this planning and strategic planning and all that sort of stuff. I think she and Sina have already kind of developed the teamwork atmosphere and going to do well. And of course, we know anything Sina touches, she does very well. So I think this is going to work. And I think when it does work, it's going to be another feather in the cap of the library in this community. And that's what we're here for, is to let this community know how valuable the library really is.
Well, I think we've absorbed a lot of information. If there is no further discussion on this item, then I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the donation agreement. Is that what we're agreeing to, is the donation agreement? Okay. I move to approve the donation agreement between the Hop and May Adams Foundation, Carson Incubator 1 LLC, and the Carson City Library Board of Trustees for the purpose of a special library service program for economic development in Carson City. It's the wrong one. Is that good?
I second.
Was that it? Okay.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. And that's very exciting.
Wait 1 second.
Oh.
Sorry.
Waiting, holding.
Sorry, we were looking at something while you guys were, but we need to make sure that,
Amended.
wait. Okay, so can we withdraw that last motion? And then, I know, but I have a different proposed motion for you because we need to include the late material. Also, it would be great if we could say a special library services program for economic development as defined in the donation agreement, because economic development in the agreement is different than the NRS definition, and we want to make sure that people don't get confused
Iris,
between the two.
we're going to give you 5 minutes to write that out so she can read it back into the record.
I would be happy to do that. You got it?
Tell me, so I'm gonna approve the donation agreement and.
So it would be, I move to approve the donation agreement between the Hop and May Adams Foundation, Carson Incubator 1 LLC, and the Carson City Library Board of Trustees, and then you would say, as defined in the donation agreement, but you would also say it would be the one that was provided in the late material today. That draft. And it's been uploaded to the website also. I mean, that doesn't have to be in the motion, but just so people know.
Iris, do we need to make a motion to withdraw that, or how do we handle that? I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, yes. Sorry about that. Just make a motion to withdraw the motion, and then withdraw it, and then do a new one. Thanks.
Okay, I make a motion, go ahead, what are you gonna do?
I'll make the motion that we withdraw the vote and the motion that was just made so that we can do a revised motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Okay,
One more time.
one more time. Okay, make sure I have. Okay, I make a motion to approve the donation agreement between the Hop and May Adams Foundation, Carson Incubator 1 LLC, and the Carson City Library Board of Trustees for the purpose of a special library service program for the economic development as defined in the donation agreement provided in the late materials earlier today.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second that motion.
Okay, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your understanding.
Moving on to item 4. Do any board members have any announcements or requests for information? I'd like to announce that we just approved the donation agreement. If there are no other announcements or requests for information, we'll move on to item 5, public comment. If any members of the public wish to address the library board, now would be the time. Seeing none forthcoming, we'll move on to item 6, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.